It is a weather impact alert here across central Indiana as some heavy snow is starting to push in. This is way out towards the west there in Terre Haute, close to the state line. You're looking at what the state line looks like, I-70 east. So these lanes are headed east. These folks with the headlights on, you got to turn them on with this kind of snow. They're headed westbound into Illinois. This is what it looks like. This is what's coming our way. We've got some steady snow crossing the state line. It's light around Indianapolis, but it definitely gets a little bit heavier once you get closer to Illinois. Some of this heavier snow is, of course, starting to push east. So we want to give you an update here at 11 o'clock on what we're seeing. This is a live look at Indy, and the visibility starting to drop. And if you look closely, especially along some buildings or right in front of the buildings that are a little bit darker, you can see some of that snow. It's fairly light right now in downtown. The roads are still fine. Most of these snowflakes are melting, especially on some of these roads that we have more cars on with the traffic. But I do think we'll overcome these streets here shortly. Right now it's 22 degrees, so it's cold, but a lot of the salt treatment should mostly work. Once you get way into the teens, that's when the salt treatment gets a little bit more iffy. But we're holding in the 20s, so that's some good news. Snow is light at first, but the clouds are going to get thicker, the visibilities are going to drop, and the snow rates are going to pick up through the rest of this morning here for the next hour, and then really into the afternoon. Meteorologist Sean Ash has you covered all afternoon long. He'll give you updates on weather and also how traffic is doing. That's something that we'll really have to watch here for your Friday afternoon and evening. And that's one of the big questions and differences compared to the last snowstorm. The last one was way bigger. This one will be weaker for us, but it was a Sunday. Maybe you didn't have to be on the roads. It's a Friday. Things are a lot busier. We got a lot of kids in school. And of course, we've got a lot of folks at work. So the evening commute may turn slick. Here are what the weather maps look like right now. This is really a southern snowstorm. In fact, the low pressure, you don't even see it. It's towards the Gulf Coast. But the real deep moisture is to the south. That's where they're getting several inches. I mean, we've got close to a foot in parts of the Arkansas River Valley and headed right along the Arkansas River there towards Little Rock, and even Memphis has picked up quite a bit of snow. This is where the heavy wet snow is. The only reason why we're getting snow is there was a little separate front coming in from the north and west, just to kind of enhance the northern side of the southern snowstorm. And so that's why we're getting this. But what we're really watching is, look at these bands, a little bit darker. We've got consistent snow moving in for the afternoon. There aren't going to really be any breaks. But this heavy snow is where we're going to start to accumulate more. And we think this heavy band that you see right there in southern Illinois is going to be tracking kind of near I-70 and I-69 in southwestern Indiana into Indy. And because this thing has ballooned a little bit, we have increased our snowfall totals just a touch for parts of central Indiana, mainly around Indy and to the south and west. I'll show you those here in a moment. But you can see the snow goes all the way back to northwest Arkansas and parts of green country and eastern Oklahoma. Now it should be white country because of all the snow. But we've got several hours to go. You know, this is a good 12 to 14 hours of snow across central Indiana. Many times light, but it's this batch in here, this darker blue, that's a little bit heavier. It's going to move in towards Vincennes and Jasper, there towards Terre Haute, even Evansville kind of clipping in on some of that too, Hartford City, and come right into Martinsville, Brazil, there towards Clay County, and then once you get into Brown County, Bloomington, Monrovia, Mooresville, Avon, Plainfield, Brownsburg, and Indy, that's where we're going to highlight maybe a little bit heavier snowfall for us because of that burst. But you see the snow filling in. Some of this snow that we have in eastern Indiana, not quite reaching the ground just yet. We can turn on live Doppler 13, get a little bit higher resolution. Not all of this reaching the ground, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this batch where you see a little bit darker, some flurries are starting to make it to the ground. But everything to the left of me, but to the west of Indianapolis, that is all falling. And you see some of that snow coming into downtown right now. But the snowfall rates are going to pick up. In fact, when you look in Hendricks County, they're just west of Danville. We've got a little bit heavier snow. Morgan County, the snow's picking up. Martinsville, it's about to kind of burst with some of that snow in the next 20 minutes. Bloomington, we've got some good snow now falling. You head west to Brazil, we've got some good snow. Greencastle as well. Even Lafayette getting in on some of these snow flurries. Now underneath the radar, you see a lot of purple. Those show you all our winter weather advisories. They're in effect right now. They go until 1 o'clock for your Friday morning, so just after midnight tonight. So we still got, well, 14 hours to go left of the winter weather advisory. The pink color shows you winter storm warnings. Generally, the farther south you go, you might get a little bit more snow, but we think there's going to be an enhancement right in here from Indy to Terre Haute, Bloomington, Monrovia, Martinsville, maybe even getting into Greenwood, there towards Bargersville, Center Grove. It might even get into parts of northwest suburbs, there towards Traders Point and Brownsburg and Whitestown and throughout Marion County. That's where we think kind of this heavier burst will be, maybe 3 to 5 inches, but we got a good 3 to 4 everywhere else. It's that 5-inch mark that we may have a few more reports south and west of Indianapolis. So we'll watch that closely for you. But we're watching radar. We're also been watching some of the cameras across the area. Here's a closer look at some of those. Here's Greencastle. We got some heavier snow for us. Ellettsville, the Monroe County Airport. We got some heavier snow bands. Martinsville, they're collapsing in around us, coming right into the airport right now. Indy International is about here. Got the snow coming into Avon and Plainfield. Greenwood, we got some flurries. They're going to pick up soon. Fishers, Carmel, good morning. In Pendleton and Anderson, the snow is just about here. You may get some flurries right now, but the heavier snow is out towards Zionsville and Lebanon, but it's closing in. It's going to kind of come down and up 465 just a bit. Also got some flurries around Meridian Hills and Broad Ripple, but all this is lifting north for Hamilton County and Boone County. We'll get more into Madison County here shortly. I'm not sure if all this is quite reaching the ground for you guys around Anderson and Pendleton, but it will be soon if it's not already. Muncie, couple flurries around us, but we also have some heavier snow on the way. Greenfield, we've got snow here shortly. Newcastle, Rushville, Shelbyville, New Pal. We've got some snow closing in. And then farther east too. I'm not sure if these are quite reaching the ground around Wayne County, for Richmond and Centerville, for the Spartans in Connorsville, maybe a couple flurries, but the heavy stuff is definitely on the way. So let's take a closer look at this map. This is going to be something interesting. This is new for us. We've been able to take the data from DPW, from Marion County, and look at the snow plow progress and the plan of what they're about to do. We don't quite have a plan yet until really the snow starts building. There's nothing quite to plow just yet. This is separate from just salt treatment. This is more for plowing. So you see a lot of white. They're getting ready over the next 8 hours, but what we'll see eventually is probably look a little bit messy here on the map, but you'll see these blues and pinks and reds and greens, and that'll show you where they are working or where they're going to work next, and the blue color will show you where they're actively working. So this will be something that Sean will be able to show you throughout the afternoon because we have that winter weather advisory in place. Everyone along and south of this dotted dashed line will have some of the heavier snowfall amounts. Winter storm warnings, farther south you go. Once you go north of this line, you're still going to get snow, but maybe only be a couple inches, maybe 2, maybe 3. But we think that 3+ inch should generally be south of this dotted line. We want to take a closer look at traffic this morning too. That's something that will be a bigger impact as we move forward. Once again, here's that camera in Terre Haute in eastern or far western Indiana. You're looking I-70 east. So the state line is just kind of over yonder this way. These folks coming in from Illinois, they've been tracking with the snow. They're bringing it with them. But this is what it's going to look like here as we get closer to the lunch hour and then into the afternoon. This is live look at Evansville. This is I-69. And notice how even the roads are starting to get covered. They've got maybe one lane that is still mostly clear for the tire tracks. But this inside lane, it looks like even the tire tracks are starting to become more snow covered. This is probably Indianapolis's future in about an hour and a half or so. So we'll have to watch this really closely. I think at first, many tires will help melt the snow for the first hour, but then after that, Mother Nature will win, and we'll start to snow cover our roads. This is what it looks like in southwestern Indiana. This is coming right towards us. So we'll be watching this. We'll also be watching our road sensor map. This shows you what the roads look like all the way to the back south and west where we've already had snow for a while. Light snow now reporting on a lot of road sensors west and southwest of Indianapolis. The darker blue color shows you where the heavy snow is, and that's that exact burst we were talking about, really putting on some snow on the roads right now. So we got that heavier snowfall rate, and ground is cold. Roads are cold. The only thing that was helping the roads is that we have traffic, hopefully. But now this will overcome that very easily. So we'll be watching probably more of that dark blue come in. That means heavier snow on the roads for central Indiana. But look at all the snow-covered roads. They're trying to melt just a little bit in some areas that will eventually get more sunshine. But you can see kind of a mix of some patchy ice and snow and wet conditions all the way back to the south central plains. Here's a closer look. I think most of the snow-covered roads are clear right now. There's still some snow on the sensors just because of the shoulders. But we'll be watching that more snow off towards the west right now. So far, a lot of green on our interstates, so traffic's still moving fine. There are flurries. We can drive in flurries. But the rate of the snow is likely to pick up over the next couple of hours. So we'll watch that here closely. How much snow has even fallen? Well, really just a trace for some of us, really nothing. But we've got heavier snow back off to the south and west right now. But we'll be talking about, around a foot or so there that we've already picked up towards the Arkansas River Valley and parts of the Ouachitas. We're not going to get snowfall totals quite as high as this, but I do think we'll have, we've already had an inch or so across Illinois and Missouri. I think our snowfall totals will kind of look like this, what they've had in northwest Arkansas, that 4 or 5 incher. This darker blue color should be able to spread right kind of through I-70. Get 44 up to Rolla, St. Louis, then hit I-70 from St. Louis right to Indy, and that's where we're probably going to be sitting there. So far, we don't really have any snow yet. There's snow depth. There's snow on the ground. But otherwise, we've got snow rates picking up. The visibility is starting to drop. Take a look at this. We usually use this for fog. You can see where the snow is getting thicker right now, down to 1 mile visibility in Lafayette, Terre Haute, down to 3.9 in Bedford. So the snow is actively getting thicker. Indy, remember, the observation is southwestern Marion County, there towards the airport, right there with the Hendricks County line. And that's where we're down to 1 mile visibility as well. So we're really starting to see that snow pick up. If we could go ahead and switch back to some forecasts, I'm going to show a couple more things. We'll wrap this up this morning. We'll also have much more at 11 for our noon newscast. But winter weather advisories in place for the rest of the day. So here's what we're thinking. Most of us are going to get 2 to 4 inches, but we think the threat of 4 or maybe 5 inches, maybe even 5.5, really comes in for southwestern Indiana up to Indy. I'll show you that snow map in just a second, but the heaviest 1 to 8. So we're getting close to that heavier band now. I mean, we're going to have some of the scattered lighter snow for maybe another hour, hour and a half, but then it should really pick up. We're going to push these snow bands in, and they'll fill in across all of central Indiana. Here's noon. So right at the noon newscast, we'll probably see some of that snow starting to get closer to Hagerstown and Jay County, and then Randolph County, Muncie will probably start getting in on the snow. By 1, I think everyone's getting the snow, and then it's just consistent the rest of the day. 3 o'clock, school's letting out. That's when we have some of our heaviest snow. So give yourself extra time. Just plan that your commute probably could take double the amount of time, maybe even a little bit more, just depending on how traffic goes and how accidents go. Sean will be looking at those very closely throughout the afternoon. You want to check with them. He'll have several updates here on WTHR Plus. And so we'll be watching traffic and snow, but then we'll be watching 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, still the consistent snow. You see that back end starting to approach the state line by about 9, but we don't clear a lot of the snow out until midnight. So how much snow, you add all that together, with some snowfall rates between 1/4 to 1/2 inch per hour. That's about half of what we were doing the last snowstorm. So it's not nearly as heavy, but it's enough, and over a long time period, we think 3, 4 inches is a good range for many Hoosiers across central Indiana, maybe a little bit less to the north, but because of those heavier bands that we have in southern Illinois, they're about right here, just south and east of St. Louis. I think those will track in, and that's why we have this nose. So it's not necessarily just the farther south you go, because we think this nose will try to really impact Bloomington, Shelbyville, Columbus. We may not quite hit 5 inches, but we'll see. They're towards Brookville Lake and Greensburg, Batesville, Oldenburg, and just some of the suburbs outside of Cincinnati. But here's that swath. Here's kind of the general look. I do want to show you our specific snowfall map per city. You sit on this just for a second. Same zones, but we've kind of highlighted individual towns on what we're thinking. So a good 3 to 4 north of Indy. So Carmel, Fishers, Noblesville, Anderson, Pendleton, good 3 to 4 inches. 3 to 4 inches towards Crawfordsville. We start including the 5-incher once we get to Indy. Indianapolis is included in this 3 to 5, and that 3 to 5 extends off to the south and west. So when you get 3 to 5, that doesn't mean you're going to have 3 to 5 by 5 o'clock. That's what you get by midnight. Here's kind of a rough timeline. Let's say you're going to get 4 inches. Here's how that 4 inch would play out. Here at noon, maybe 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. We'll have to see. The noon's kind of tough because it depends on where you are. But let's say about 4 o'clock, we've all gotten snow for a while. If you're on the way to 4 inches, you may have just under 2 inches by 4. By 8 o'clock, you might be close to 3. Maybe by midnight, you'd be starting to hit that 4 inch or maybe even a little bit more. So it's slow. It's like watching paint dry. It won't accumulate as fast as the last round. So just a heads up. It's a slow accumulation, but I think we'll have consistent snow through a lot of basketball games this evening. Over the past week and for this weekend, we've had a lot of county tourneys. So if one team is out or gets canceled, it messes the whole thing up. So we've got a lot of stakes there, a lot of basketball games across the state. For high school, it's going to be snowing before the games. It's going to be snowing after the games. I know some folks have been thinking about, okay, do I push to the weekend? Or every schedule is a little bit different. But it will be kind of snowy this evening as you're headed to some high school basketball games. To keep that in mind, that's why we have the weather impact alert for your Friday. Because we're stuck in the 20s, we're definitely cold enough for just snow, but we're also maybe warm enough that a lot of the treatment should work, but eventually snow will just win. But hopefully the treatment can work as long as possible. We'll have more updates on how the plows are doing and where they're focusing on, especially Marion County. That data is available. Outside of Marion County, we don't have that data available. Otherwise, we would bring that to you. But we have it from Marion County. And you can see we start to warm up, maybe even getting close to freezing on Sunday. But generally, you know, there could be a couple flurries here and there after this system, but really it's this system, and then it's the cold. After a brief warm up this weekend, guys, get ready. Wind chills will be -5 to -10. The last cold spell we had earlier this week, we didn't have as much of the wind once we got to the coldest air. I think we'll have the wind and the coldest air at the same time, so our wind chills may be worse for this upcoming week. So stay weather aware today, weather impact alert all day long. Sean will have several updates throughout the afternoon and evening. We've got you covered. We're watching the snow come in. Let us know how much snow you get. Please stay safe. Give yourself extra time as you're traveling out this afternoon and evening because the roads will likely become snow covered and slick. Make sure you keep it here. Keep it local. As always, we'll keep you advised.